back to Texas Family Life. My name is Kristy. These are a couple of my daughters. They're gonna help me today. We're gonna make some vettuccinis. Vettuccinis for this dish is a Lithuanian dish. They're kind of like dumplings, but a Lithuanian edition. My grandmother was born in Lithuania, and so this is one that like they brought overseas, and it's just one that's always been passed down through my family. My mom used to make vettuccinis, and now I make them, and I'll double the recipe, and I always try to bring some to my mom. This is one that you can double it and freeze half once it's already made, and it does really well in the freezer, and you can just pull it out and boil it and it's done. So this recipe is so easy and super affordable, and hence like this is from kind of the Depression era and earlier. So this is a time when people didn't have like tons of money to be buying fancy things to feed their families, but this is like super filling. So the vettuccine ends up being like a dough, like a pasta with meat filling. There's a potato one, but I don't make the potato one. This is the one I make. It's just super basic and it's so good. So you cook it and put some butter on it, and it's a whole meal. And it's something that you can make with things you have at home. So you're gonna use ground beef, flour, crackers. I'm using garlic salt and regular salt, but here's garlic salt, pepper, 2 eggs, half a cup of milk, and a cup of water. All right, so I am doubling this recipe today. So instead of 3 cups of flour, I'm gonna use 4. I'm gonna use 2 eggs and another 2 eggs because I'm gonna give some to my family, and then I'm gonna keep some for us. So typically I do too many crackers. It calls for 1/3 a sleeve of crackers, but in doubling it, I'm just gonna go ahead and do a half. So I'm gonna put them in a baggie. You could put them in your food processor, but I'm gonna put them in a baggie, and I'm going to use my rolling pin to crush the crackers into pretty small pieces. So we're gonna put half of these in this bag, and then we're gonna just kind of beat them with a rolling pin. All right, so we're gonna do this part first, and that way these crackers can be soaking. We're gonna put them in the bowl with all the wet ingredients, so. I'll let you crack that thing. All right, so you're going to mix the cracker mixture around, and then you're gonna let it sit. And that's why it's important to do this step first, because you need these to be completely soft when you mix it in with the meat. You don't want like hard chunks of crackers. You want it to just kind of turn into like kind of a mush. So we're gonna let this get all mushy, and we're not gonna add the meat just yet. So while we're waiting for that to become mushy, I'm gonna go ahead and start making the dough for it, which is super simple. 3 ingredients, 3, 4, well, either way, but it's easy. We're gonna do that next. Like I said, I'm doubling this. If you want to just do a few for your family, then you can. But this calls for 3 cups of flour. I'm gonna do 6 cups of flour, 2 cups of water, and 2 eggs, and some salt. So growing up, we used to mix the meat by hand. You would squeeze it, just like that. I have a cut on my hand, so I'm not gonna use my hands to mix it today. Also, I don't like mixing it by hand because it's always like freezing cold, and it always gave my hand like cramps. So I've always just enjoyed mixing it with a fork, and I think that's okay. But if you wanna be like super authentic, do it the authentic Lithuanian way, then you will mix it with your hands and you will get messy. So this ended up being a really good consistency, and the wonderful thing about this is I almost always have some meat left over. Instead of dough, I usually run out of dough pretty quickly. And so I will save this and put it aside for something like meatballs or some meatloaf. It's a very similar recipe to meatballs and meatloaf that I use. So I'll just do that. I'll stick it in the freezer and label it and then use it at a later date. So really this recipe is just great because nothing goes to waste. So next we're gonna roll out the dough and we're gonna fill the fettuccinis and set them aside. It's still morning time, so these are gonna be fine, like covered with some plastic wrap and put in the fridge. But you do wanna make sure to cover them right away so that they don't get like a crusty film on the fettuccinis themselves.
Because you're eating lots of food, cutie.